A very good afternoon to all of you. I hope you are all well and safe at home. Thank you for joining us again for another Dutcham webinar. Well, obviously, I would have preferred to do all of this with you live, but unfortunately, Corona is putting us in some difficult situation. But as Dutcham is all about connecting people, business professionals, we didn't want to be stopped by the Corona. So we are very happy that we found our way to you guys. Once again, ladies, a very warm welcome this afternoon. We had a lot of people in the virtual room. Obviously, we don't see them, but they can still interact with us. As I already told them, they can use the chat box or send us some messages if they have some questions. So we try to tackle these questions. Now, just before starting, obviously everybody knows Heineken, everybody knows Makro, but maybe can you, both of you, just introduce a little bit yourself, but also the company.
Dani, please.
Thank you, Raquel. So I work in Makro. Makro is a wholesale company. We have almost 200 stores in South America, mainly in Colombia, Peru, Argentina, Venezuela, and Brazil. We are almost 16,000 employees across the region. In Brazil, we are 60,000. And our main purpose, our core value is to make a difference to the society that we are working with. We work.
Sorry, can you just repeat how many years you're in Makro now? Because we lost you.
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Mm-hmm. Raquel, many years in HR, also years at Heineken. Tell us something about Heineken and yourself.
Sure. So, well, for sure, Heineken itself, the brand, I think it's unnecessary to make a lot of introductions. Also because I know you all got it at home. So in case this is the real Heineken we are talking about. But Heineken is a company with more than 150 years, a Dutch company. Here in Brazil, I have joined Heineken 2.5 years ago, but 3 years ago, we went from 2,000 employees to roughly 13,000 employees. Here in Brazil, we are the largest operation at Heineken in the world in terms of volume. You know this lovely brand that we are all passionate about, but we have around 20 brands here in Brazil. We produce beer for all types of consumer, different segments and categories and price points, but we also produce water, we produce soda. So it's a very relevant market for Heineken globally. And it's been an honor and a privilege to go through the integration after we acquired Kirin almost 3 years ago, and working with the president's succession. And now, of course, I think that will be the point of our conversation through this pandemic, trying to get all the learns that it brings, but also trying to collect some of the positive collaterals to make our company even stronger when things get back to whatever will be the new normal after all of that is behind us.
Yeah, well, this indeed, ladies, was also the reason of my invitation. I think you have such a massive experience, especially over the last weeks. I mean, I think the world has changed drastically, and you had to follow that in a very, very quick timing. So it would be really awesome to have you know, your experience and share this with the group, because at the end of the day, we can all use a bit of good advice on it. Now, talking about immediately the Corona measures that we put in place since a few weeks, most of the companies, they went also in remote working. What exactly, Raquel, the question to you first, what exactly did you do? What kind of measures did the company take in this Corona time?
Sure. So I think it's important to give a bit of a background of how our business is composed in Brazil. because we have all different sorts of employees. So we have a lot of admin employees. We have our head office here in São Paulo, a lot of support functions also based in Itu. But we have 15 breweries spread across Brazil. We have roughly 40 distribution centers, but we also have our sales reps that many times they are in cities where we don't have a fixed base. So we had to take a very specific approach for each employee group. So out of the 13,000 employees that we have today, we have roughly between 3,000 and 4,000 working from home. All the admin functions are working from home, but also we have some even of our sales reps that usually in the past was even unthinkable for us, but that now they are doing their sales through over the phone and talking to their clients, consumers from their homes. We have some of the employees that we had to work harder on distancing measures. So the volume has decreased a lot according to Abrabe. Last month, the whole category dropped by 50%, 50 in Brazil, the beverage consumption. So of course, the production has slowed down, the bars and the points of sales are, a lot of them are closed. So that's a huge impact. We have people on vacation, bank of hours and so on and so forth. But we still have some lines operating. We have our merchandisers there in the supermarkets. As you go and see their products, they're beautifully exposed. That's part of their work. So for those, we're working on safety measures, alcohol gel, the masks now, the distancing measures for the ones in the production, in the bus, in the site when they are producing. Taking more care in the cafeterias when they are eating. So we can't take a one-size-fits-all approach, and we are trying to discuss that every day in our committee because the scenario is very dynamic. So one thing that is completely necessary and is enough today is not the right answer for tomorrow. So, but that's roughly what we are doing now, considering the breweries, the ones that are still in the field, the ones that are working from home, and others, of course, that are on leave because they are part of risk groups. So those ones are just staying at home.
Okay, then for you it's the same. You also have a mixed audience at Makro, people from the office, people in the stores. What kind of measures did you take at Makro?
In Makro, we have, as I mentioned before, we have 60,000 employees across the region. So 8% of these employees, they are in the stores. So they are in the front line, they're in contact with our customers. So it's something that is very, very important to care about their health. So the first thing that we did is to create a crisis committee in order to address what would be the priority for people that is work from a store and people that is on home office. So we create two committees to deal with this, and we start discuss what should be the measure that we should put in place. So first of all, we should care about our people and also their family, because people has to go to store and has to be back in their house safely. So we create a communication campaign. We strengthen breakfast, lunch. We give some tickets for people to buy food in the store to bring it to the house, because we are talking about the population that they are in a lower level of the pyramid, and also they have to be in the front line, caring about our cost and also about our business. So we hired telemedicine. We call telemedicine the place that you can call to a doctor to have some consultation, and there you have some prescription or indication to be at home or to go to the hospital. So we avoid our people to be exposed to the sickness. We also hire psychological support for them, because people has to be in a daily basis, and our store are crowds. We have a lot of people inside of the store. Of course, we follow all the government measure, but yes, we are in the middle of the crisis, and we have to care about our people and also to care about the sustainability of our business. On the home office side, people has been giving some feedback to us that they have been working very hard. And what we try to do is to create some routines for them to talk, to listen to them, and also provide some support, because in the psychological side, this environment creates a lot of fear. And the question is how to deal with fear with something that you can't control. So what we try to do is to support them psychologically.
We will come back on that, Danny, because we go a bit more into detail on how to indeed guide and engage and motivate and follow people. We will come back to that. Maybe also another, what I asked in the beginning, or what was mentioned in the beginning also by Raquel, how badly is your business impacted? I hear 50% at Heineken, which is massive, obviously. How do you see that at Makro? Can you give us an idea on that, without going too much into detail, obviously? But
yes, we have different situations according to the country that we are. So, for example, in Venezuela, they are struggling to be in the country that we have different kind of problem, all the problems that we have there. So our business there, we are fighting to survive, not only about the business, but to care about our people. In Peru, Colombia, and Argentina, the measure that the government took was very strong. So it impacts the time that we can open the store and consequently our sales. But in Brazil, we are managing a daily basis, and we are doing well. We are managed properly the situation that we have nowadays.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of companies now are facing the big pressure, right, on the results. Now, going to the real HR point, because this is the reason why we're here. Raquel, how do you see the role these days of HR? I mean, it's always been in the center, HR, of a company, but I think even more than before. How do you see the role of HR?
Yeah, I was having one of those webinars with our employees, and one of the young talent groups was asking, hey, how do you feel about all this protagonism? Because now, I mean, you guys are in the heart of the situation, and I can't wait for that to end. Thank you very much for all the protagonism, but this is not exactly the type of big project that we want to deal. But again, I think everyone is trying to do their best, and of course it's a function that is taking a very strong lead of many actions. In our case at Heineken, the safety and health are also under my responsibility. So the corporate doctor and all the safety measures that we are taking, that also goes through my team's recommendations. And but we can only do good things, or we can take bad paths if we are or we are not aligned with the leadership. And luckily, I feel sincerely lucky to be in a company right now that truly values the employee and puts the health and the well-being of the employee at the center of the decision. And of course, that also goes through responsible financial discussion and decisions. Because we just announced our commitments to keep the jobs of the employees at Heineken across the globe until the end of the year, regardless of how long the scenario takes and what that means for us. So we have to find a balance, but we can only shine as HR, or we will only screw up if we are or we are not supported by a business that truly wants to do the right thing. So of course, the recommendations, they come from me, but we have daily meetings with our management team. And I feel very lucky and well supported that when we feel strongly about a recommendation, even if we know that short term it can be a bit painful for the day, in the end, we all know that what are our values and what are the things that we want to be proud of in the future. So I think it's still a story that we'll be proud to tell later by the way that we are managing it. But for sure, HR cannot do anything alone.
Yeah. Hey, Danny, what do you see, because HR indeed is in the middle of this fight, but what did you see as the biggest challenge, the let's say the biggest dilemmas that you've been facing over let's say the last couple of weeks when the whole corona was starting here in Brazil, and how do you face this? How did you manage these challenges? as HR?
I think, Peg, the priority is to care about our people, and it has to be the priority. I think SHV has it in the heart of the company. So today, I would say that it's not only about HR. All the leaders in the business has to care about the people. What I can do, or what the directors can do, they can influence the leaders in order to take the best decision for the business, and also to care about the safety of the environment, the health of our employees. But my point nowadays, it's about survive. It's not to play to defend ourselves, but to play to win. So what we try to do is to influence the leaders that we have in the company, that the decisions that we took related to the employees will impact directly the business that we are. Because we are a business of people that stay in front of the store selling our products. So today, I would say that the whole management team in all the countries that we are managing, we are leading, we are HR people. We are HR leaders. It's what I would like to share with you.
I think also information, communicating or giving the right information is now very crucial in these times. Unfortunately, we sometimes lack a bit on open communication. If we look at, for example, Brazil on a political level. But I think this is crucial. I saw that, for example, also at Heineken, communication has been taken care of very carefully. I mean, you've been doing a whole kind of a communication strategy, completely adapted right now to the situation, Raquel. What can you share with us about this? How did you manage this?
Yeah, so I think we started the daily communications with our employees on the week of the 15th. That moment has arrived, I guess. Just
the note dropped from the door.
Okay. In the week of the 15th, so a little over a month ago, we started with daily communication with our employees. So we at least send around 3 p.m. so that they also know when to expect news. We send them something about the day or communications about the day before. Sometimes I go into a live by myself. Sometimes I go in the live with our corporate doctor. Sometimes he goes, depending on what we want to reinforce, a positive message. Mauricio, our president, goes and speaks. Nilcina, when it's corporate affairs, talking about the points that we are doing for the society. So we kept a daily cadence of communication to all the employees. Additionally to that, we also have the leaders, as Danielle was very well pointing out, the ones that are on the floor. If we have some specific decisions in X government that is really different from the others, then if it's impacting sales, very likely the sales VP with the HR director of that function, they will talk directly to that team. So we kept a cadence that is daily minimum, even if it's to reinforce, please wash your hands. If you have symptoms, get in touch with us. Sometimes it's just one paragraph. Sometimes it's an hour-long communication when employees can ask questions. And we also have some ad hoc forums with specific functions. And we know that the employees appreciate very much. We saw a lot of engagement in workplace. We have workplace here at Heineken, and they use it a lot. But we also did, I think around 10 days ago, a poll survey, a voluntary and anonymous poll survey with them, asking how they were feeling about the communication, how were they feeling about Heineken approach, is there anything there were that we were missing. And the feedback was massively positive, but we also got, especially in the comments, some points in some areas that we knew we had to give more attention. So talking to the employees, leaving the channel open, but also listening to what they still need and adjusting as we go has been very important for us.
What kind of information is key for people to share into this environment? I mean, it's not only right about washing the hands and using the alcohol gel. I mean, we've been talking a lot about this, but what kind of information is key to pass to your employees?
So we have been very transparent about how we are managing the crisis. So, okay, why are we not using masks up to now? Why do we adopt the masks now? What's different? When we have a confirmed case, we are very transparent. Of course, we don't say the name, we preserve the identity, but we say we have an employee. The employee is well, the employee is at home. Now we have a new case. The other 2 employees that were confirmed, they are already released, they are immune, they are back to work. We have already mapped the contactants and there are no contacted. So people, we don't leave room for wondering and second guess. So it goes from some education about how to behave if you have to be in the front line, what are the groups that we are keeping at home and why, what are the cases that we have. And sometimes, as I said, Mauricio goes to give them a positive message, to share his own vulnerability. Hey, I was someone that struggled a lot with home office. I thought that people wouldn't work. And now I'm here working more than ever and seeing everyone super engaged. I'm breaking my own paradigms. I don't have all the answers. I ask my team, so don't be ashamed to do that yourself. So I think it's a bit of everything, Peggy. It's
and also straightforward and honest communication, I think. Absolutely. Is that also what you see, Danny, at Makro? Is this the kind of communication that you share as well at Makro?
Yes, it's almost the same as Raquel mentioned, but we define and we start to communicate our purpose. We has been used the statement, we together, we make a difference to our customers, to the society that we are, and for our employees. So how to make a difference to our employees, how to make a difference to our customers, to keep the price in the market for people that would like to go to buy, to give a fair treatment to our employees, to be honest in our communication, because we have people that ask, you will cut our salary, you will reduce our salaries, Makro, we will lay off people. What would be the next? Do we have people that is okay or they are sick? So this kind of questions that people have. So we have a weekly meeting with our president when we talk about everything. We use, I think, almost 20 minutes only to communicate where we are related to the pandemic and also to allow people to make questions. We also create some space in the company to listen to our employees, because sometimes people would like to talk. The president and the director, we call to all store managers to talk with them, to say that they have to care about themselves, to care about their families, and also to care about the employees. I think it's impossible to sell a brilliant future, but what we try to do is to say, yes, we are here, we are together, and we will fight together. It will pass, and we will be together to be the next phase, or the new world that we have to face in the future. So what we try to do is, only to finalize, what we try to do is to use empathy, to put ourselves in the shoes of our employees and to see what we can do in order to care about them in a proper way, to be fair with everybody.
Because indeed, I think that now a lot of questions will raise as well from the employees, like, hey, a job for me tomorrow after this crisis. I mean, this kind of information is sometimes hard to communicate, right?
But I think, Peggy, the key point is to be honest. And sometimes we have to say, I don't know. Sometimes we are in the discussion, there is one question. So the government of São Paulo is saying that we have to be back to the office in the 11th of May. What will happen? What would be the position in Makro? We don't have the answer yet. We have to discuss, to have a plan, and to communicate to you in a proper way. Oh, but we have to be back and the schools will be closed. How to manage this? I don't have answer now. We will discuss, and as soon as we have a clear answer to you, we will address your point. So this is the point. What we try to do is to share with them our vulnerabilities, because it's not easy for us, but also to say that we don't have answer for everything. We have to take decisions in a daily basis, and decisions in an environment that we don't know. So what I would say that I try to get very connected with myself, to make a lot of meditation in order to see how we as a leadership team can impact the lives of the people that is work with us. It's what we can do.
Yes, sorry, Raquel.
Sorry, the point that Danielle was mentioning, I also see a lot of questions from the employees from different areas and from different levels. When are we coming back? Even before the announcement of Doria, when are we coming back? How is it going to look like? Even if they know that we don't have the answer, I think people need so much, as much as you, by the way. I would love to have the answer. Today we had the webinar with our global CEO, with Jean-Francois, and he was answering exactly the same thing. Guys, I don't know. I don't have a clue. I can give you a view on how this and that I think might look like, but anything I say will be just futurology. And I think it's putting us leaders in a position that we were not used or not super comfortable to be at, because we're using to, okay, you have to make a call, you have to have an answer, you should have predicted it. And now we say, well, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week, but I still don't know your answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, now that brings us a bit to the point also that maybe in terms of best practices, because when we talk about information, what are the let's say the tips or tricks that you could share with the audience? I mean, how can you do that? I already heard about having a doctor line open, having a weekly or even a daily communication flow going on, a CEO or a top level position speaking to the employees. What kind of type of different communications could you advise or share with the audience? Raquel, what kind of things are you doing? You have weekly.
So sorry, I was on mute here. So yeah, we have with my direct. I don't know if I got exactly the question, but with my direct team. As we are a bit overloaded already with the daily crisis committee, and I talk to them every day because of that, we try not to add additional ones. I see the other functions doing that. Most of them are doing daily catch-ups though, and they find it very helpful. I also have now, for example, a regional HR weekly meeting, which we didn't have before, but now we feel the added value to have more connection between the countries here in Americas, which is the region that we have here at Heineken. So with my own function and my team, we have our daily catch-up more on the crisis, and we kept our bi-weekly HR meeting. And then as needed, we do also our virtual happy hours. And yesterday we had one of our bi-weekly ones, and having a beer on screen and people with the guitar, and us trying to bring a bit of fun, and also trying to show that we are also learning in the way.
Important, I think, as well. Hey, Danny, brings us to a point of motivation and engagement, because it's not so easy to motivate, to stimulate, to engage people from a remote working. I already see a question coming by also on how will you judge or evaluate people. We come to that question right away, but first, in terms of engagement, in terms of motivation, how can you do that of people who are, somewhere outside your company? How do you do that?
It's interesting, Peggy, because we have different environment. We have people that is in the store, that their life continue the same. We have to include some measure related to safety. We have to include some benefits to them. We have to engage, motivate, and allow them to share their fear, also to support them, the operation that is in the front line with our customer. But on the other hand, we have the head office, that we exist in the head office to support the operation that we have in the store. We call in Portuguese ESL, Escritório de Suporte às Lojas. So we exist in order to support our stores. So what we try to do is first is to see and to have a clear view about the roles. People that is in the store, they are in the store, they have the role to be there and to provide our population with food. And we, in the home office, we have to support them to provide the better service to the society that we are. So we have to have a clear view about the roles and the mission of the people in the store, in the head office. But in the end, we are together, and we are together fighting to survive in the situation that we are. So we, as I mentioned before, we create a campaign, we talk with people in a daily basis, but we try to listen to them and to ask them what more we can do in order to support their job, in order to support them to play the role that is required in the middle of the crisis that we are. So it's what we have been doing. So I can give you some examples about campaigns, about space to share ideas. So we also are working very close to the leadership teams. The leaders in the company make the difference, because it's time to differentiate girls and women, boys and men. Now it's time to be a leader and to lead the discussion, to lead the company, and to lead by example. It's not easy for us, as I mentioned before, we don't have all the answers, but we have to be conscious about our role in this journey. So nowadays we have been working, talk a lot with our leaders in the company.
Hey, Raquel, coming to the point of productivity, because people are working from, or a lot of people are working from out of home, but how can you make an evaluation of people are doing a good job? I take the example of a sales rep. Obviously, if they don't, or they not be able anymore to visit their clients, how can they reach their objectives? And what do you do with these objectives? All of a sudden, do you need to change them completely? Or also in terms of people at marketing, they have maybe targets on creativity, on other kind of more soft skills objective. What are you doing with that? How do you manage that?
So globally at Heineken, we decide now is the time that we define and has already passed, actually, would have been last month, that we define and set our goals. And we decided that globally to freeze that process. That would have been irresponsible, a waste of time, we don't know. So now we're all adjusting our daily needs and giving more short-term directions in order to manage the crisis. So we know that there are some people that are working more, and others that had either their investments, marketing investments cuts. In our case, we depend a lot on events. Guess what? There are no events. There is no Champions League. There are no concerts. So
no King's Day.
No King's Day.
No King's Day.
What we're trying to do, first of all, is to balance that workload. I wouldn't say that we are particularly worried about measuring performance, or we see and we feel that people are engaged and connected and want to give their best. And the ones that are not fully loaded, they are really willing and volunteer to support the others that they see that are overloaded. So we are proud of that. So more on the admin roles, we also asked the managers. I saw one of the questions, if we were applying any of the medidas provisórias in our employees. We are not. We are working where we have a lower workload. We are working first with vacation and with banco de horas, because we do hope and expect that at some point things will pick up again. Then we want that workforce to be ready and available to produce, also because for us year end is when we have our peak. So we are working with that. So the ones that are like a plant worker where the line stopped, he can't work, okay, let's put him or her on vacation, let's give them banco de horas even if it turns negative, because then we can turn it back. For the sales reps, the ones where there are more restrictions, but they can still do the selling, etc., over the phone, we found ways to guarantee a different way of threshold for their variable compensation, because for them, they would be hit very hard. And we not only want to guarantee their jobs, but we want to guarantee that they have conditions to leave. And we knew that most of them will get zero variable, and for them will be a disaster. So we are changing momentarily the threshold. And I think I also saw another question, are we changing bonus and etc. globally now? Yesterday, Heineken announced that all the senior leaders that we won't have a bonus payment for next year. That's part of what we are doing in order to sustain the measure, to sustain the job. So of course there is not a lot of free lunch, and we already anticipated that globally the results wouldn't be great anyhow. But for now we're not taking any other drastic measure, nor touching very specifically on KPIs. We hope that over the course of the next month or so, we will start to have clarity about what the second half should look like, and then we go more specifically on what the new KPI should be.
Okay, Danny, from your side, because I think this is a really an important question on evaluating people and paying people also, because as Raquel already said, for a lot of people, a lot of their salary is based on performance, right?
Yes, our decision is to keep the targets that we set before. And in the end of the year, we will have a discretionary evaluation to see what happened. Because to be honest, we have a high productive level nowadays. Our sales, mainly in Brazil, is doing well. We are managing net sales, working days. So our business is alive. We have the impact of the crisis, but in the end, we are selling food and the cleaning products. So it's not impacted directly. We have different situations, as I mentioned before, in Venezuela or Peru, but we don't have the answer. So the idea is to follow the KPIs that we have already set and to see what happens in the end of the day. But the targets and the object is still there. We know that we have BUs that will be more impacted than the others. But now we don't know how to predict the future. So we following the KPIs that we set before.
Okay, well, we probably have to see also a bit on a longer term and see how the economy is going forward in the coming weeks and months, right? Now, Raquel, you already mentioned something about the management team and people always also well, forced or voluntary going away from the bonuses and these kind of things. But talking about the management team, I mean, they're also in a very heavy battle these times. I mean, they're also in the middle of the crisis. And even if I talk about the CEOs or business leaders, how do they hang on? Because at the end of the day, I mean, they have to continue motivating their troops, getting in one way or another. The figures at the end of the day also continue towards their management and their stakeholders and shareholders very often. How do they hang on, Danny? How do the business?
You asked it to Raquel first. Well, what we have been doing, we have been supporting each other. We have to work very close, and we have been together, I think, almost in a daily basis. Because in the end, we are leaders, we are responsible for the company, but we are human beings. And all the fear that everybody is feeling, it's outside of us. So what we have been doing is to be very connected with us, very, very, very close, and sharing our thoughts, our feelings, our fear. So there is no answer, Peggy. I think we are living a daily basis. And what I have to say, that something that is very important in our culture is to care about each other. Collaboration is a value that is very, very, very important to Makro and mainly to SHV. It makes difference in the moment that we are in the crisis moment. So we are very, very, very connected, and we have been supporting each other. It's what we have been doing.
Hey, Raquel, let me bring you to the day after, as they call it, the recovery, the famous recovery where everybody is hoping for that it comes very quickly. How do you see that? Because a lot of things are being said back and forwards on dates, but how do you see personally, when will people go back to the office? When will we pick up our jobs? And how do you prepare all of this already?
Yeah. So I think this is the billion-dollar question now, right? But specifically yesterday, I started to have a discussion with my team about that, because okay, we're talking, of course, a bit more about São Paulo, where Doria put at least an initial date for a light opening or whatever that will look like forward, but we already had Santa Catarina, the mall opening. I think Goiás also has already some of the commercial reopening, and when that happens, then we already start to have the bars open, so they expect our employees to serve them in a way. So we started to have that conversation, and one thing that I found particularly very helpful, and I did yesterday with my HR team. I don't know if you have all received that report from Fiesp. For me, it was one of the, I received tons of materials and I have read probably half of the ton, but read a lot. That one for me was one of the most helpful ones. First of all, because we have the advantage of not being the first country in the wave, right? We had China, then we had Europe, and now we have Americas. So we can learn a bit from what we see that is happening already in the other countries that are a bit ahead of the curve. And in that report, it starts to give more or less of a pattern on what type of things start to open and how does that look like and what are the others. So that for me was particularly helpful because it faces and gives highlight to all the countries. So I started to frame my mind, not Raquel trying to guess, but based on learnings of what other countries are trying to do. And by the time we get back to the São Paulo example, May 10th, we will have had already some of the learnings from those that started to open to see, okay, what's happening there. But the second part of the report, it starts to give some detailed view on for each segment and for each category, what should you look at and what should we think about. So in our case, what I did with my team yesterday, we got 1 hour out of our agenda and we were kind of reading the report. Hey, have we thought about this? They suggest, for example, that people sit always in the same place in the cafeteria, because if when people start to go back, one of them gets contaminated, which will continue to happen because this thing will continue, hopefully in a lower rate, but will continue to happen. It's easier for you to map. And there is another question that I saw there that I think falls here. Okay, what are you going to follow? Are you going to follow strictly the government rules, or are you going to apply Heineken rules? It depends. So in the example that I gave, we need to serve, for example, the bars in Santa Catarina and Goiás. But even if they say you are free to go and operate, in my head, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to send all our employees back to the sales office to have the matinais that they were used to having, to visit the point of sales 5 days a week. It's unnecessary. We already learned that we don't need them there all the time. So yes, they will come back to work, but even if we are allowed, we don't need to put people in that situation. So in São Paulo, when we can open the office again, first of all, we should decide whether we will do it or not. And if we do, how can we force the social distancing as much as we can and get the learnings from home office so we can go back to operation. So I think that's a bit how we are starting to brainstorm. And then we said, okay, based on all of that, let's make an inventory of questions and let's discuss it day by day. Let's discuss it day by day.
Exactly. It's difficult as well, especially here in Brazil, where we have different decisions depending on the states, right? It's not so easy. But I hope with you that the bars will open very quickly, because
we're all looking forward to
we need a drink. Then for you, it's the same. You're already preparing as well, and obviously stores are open. But for the workers in the office, I mean, you're preparing also the plans.
Yes, I think we discovered that to have a home office, it's very useful. It's something that we discovered that before we had different discussion if the home office would work or not. And now we realized we were forced to do this, and it was a successful experience. So the idea is to use this experience in order to organize ourselves in a better way. I received the same report that Raquel received, and for me it was perfect, because now we are discussing in details what would be applied for macro or not. But the idea is to have waves. So what would be the first group to be back in the office? So what would be for example, we are discussing about cabinets cabinets in order to clean your before to enter in the office. We are discussing how much it would be effective.
Tests, for example. Sorry, Danny, to interrupt you. Tests, are you considering doing the corona test as well?
We are discussing. In fact, today we couldn't find the number of tests that we could use. It's not in our priority, but it is there. It is part of our list. But today, and we are working with other companies from the CHRO group, with Supergás Braz and Nutreco. And today we couldn't find enough tests and reliable tests in order to apply to our employees, but it's part of the list. But the idea is to select who would be the employees that should go to the office, what would be the distance that we have there, the hygienic cabinet before. So we are discussing what would be the best, but for sure, we will use the experience, the home office experience, in order to organize better the way that we work from now on.
Well, I think for sure we all agree that the world will completely look differently after this crisis, no matter how long it will still take. And the question could also be, Raquel, maybe for you, do you really think that fundamentally something will change in the way we are going to work, but also maybe think? I mean, I remember that a lot of people, they enjoyed the idea of working from out of home. Well, maybe now all of a sudden, all the people, they don't want to work from out of home anymore. Do you expect some fundamental change?
Yeah, I think it's impossible not to change, because we, as Danielle was saying, we all learned that we can do that. So I was even talking to my team today, and we were discussing some other changes that we wanted to push that were super difficult. And I said, guys, now this meeting that we're doing, they are for me too. You would have come to São Paulo to present it to me, right? And you didn't. Think of decision.
Exactly.
So, so I think that there are things that you can't just go back. What will be the midterm between what we had, now what we see happening? I think people will adjust over time. There will be a mix of people that are dying to go back to the office, and others that are scared to hell, or others that can't because have to take care of people at home. So I think there will be a mix of culture changes, but also different mindsets and what works for me. What we were discussing is that we need to put strict rules when people are at least allowed to go back to the office, because some of them will be dying to go, and if we allow them, they will be there now 24/7 because they need to leave the home space. And others will say, why are you even asking me? You just learned that I don't need to go because I did all my job from here. So I can't predict very much what the balance will be in a year or two, but I'm sure things will change, and I hope that we can get more of the positive learnings than the trauma, because I think there is a lot of trauma involved as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see myself. I don't know how I've worked from home for 2 years and a half before I joined Heineken, because my position was supposed to be in Geneva. I was living in Brazil for personal reasons. I was used to working from home, but this is not working from home. This is something else. So I don't know myself how I'm going to behave. It's difficult to predict.
Yeah, Danny, do you think there will be a change, a massive change of thinking with our people, and not only employees, but as an employer as well? You know.
Yes, I think in the society, I think we will have a different view of the way that we organize ourselves, and also the relationship that we have. I think it will take time. I think our normal will be completely different than the normal that we had before the pandemic. So I think now we will face a new world, a new way of working. I think we as employers, we have to think about ourselves. So what would be the meaning of the company that we are, and what we would like to provide to the society? I think it is something that we have to be connected with purpose, Peggy. I think the company that is working only to provide results and only to think about profit who will be in trouble very soon, because in the middle of this pandemic, we have to realize that we are here because we are human beings and we have to deliver something more to the society that we are. So it's something that gives us power as the values of the company that we are connect us, make us to have the sensation of belongingness in the company that we are. I think the purpose has to be the same. I think after this pandemic, the world will be completely different. We will be completely different. But one thing that I'm completely sure that we still and we will care much more about our employees and we as a person. I can personal experience I can share with you. I think people that has been work at home. I have 2 children in the house, and the fact that that my children gave to me, yes, mom, you are at home. You cause a lot of noise because you are in conference call every day, the whole time. But it's very good to have you here in every day. I think we never told me we never had this experience before. And I have one child with 17 years old and the other one with 6 years old. So it's something we have to look at the positive side of the crisis that we are living and what we can learn in order to apply in the new way of working.
Well, I think it's a very nice wrap up and a very positive sign as well. I think that some people say the world will look better or will be even better after this crisis. I mean, this is really for the people who think positively, and I'm willing to join them. Raquel, do you think the world will look as well more positive and better after this crisis?
I think there will be better things, and I think that there will be others that I think will still impact us personally for some time. I think probably people will be a bit more afraid to be close, to touch, to travel, and I personally think that's sad. Yesterday I saw the video of the reopening of the mall in Blumenau. I personally felt really bad. I had a bad feeling. I thought that was a sad image of people going with the masks and that music in the background. I'm like, oh my God, is this going back? I'm not ready. I prefer to wait a bit more and have something more positive. So I don't mean to be negative, but I also don't want to make it romantic. This is sad. People are going to lose relatives that they would tell that person, even the ones that are older, that person was in good health. I can't make it romantic for those people. I have a few colleagues in New York. It's just horrendous what they are living, and I think that ghost will continue for a while. But having said that, I think we can get a lot of learnings and positive things for the work environment. We can break paradigms. We can work more agile. I think every time someone says that we need 6 months or 1 year to do that, some people will say, okay, what if coronavirus came again? Would you be able to do that in 2 weeks? Then go ahead and do it. So I think there will be a lot of positive collaterals if we're open and willing to learn. I also think there will be a bit of trauma that we'll have to live with for a while, and we shouldn't underestimate that. We should accept it, because then it gets easier to deal with it.
Yeah. The simple things of life, and especially here as a foreigner, I can say, like the hugging and the kissing that the Brazilians like so much. I mean, it will be sad to see this, doing from a bit more distance. I mean, we want to go back to the hugging and the kissing very quickly, aren't we? Now, I think our time is up. I would love to continue talking with you girls for a few hours, but I have to respect the timings as well. Maybe just I have a look at the question. I think a lot of them have been tackled already. I think during this talk, I see somebody is asking if Raquel, we could share the link of the report that you mentioned. I think we can have a look at that. We have.
Absolutely.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you go to coronavirus.fiesp.com.br, you can navigate. It's a heavy one, so it's not something we can easily send via email, but maybe Peggy, I can find the exact link. I connect to you and you can share with the participants if that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we will do that. Well, maybe closing thing, is there something, girls, that you want to share with the audience just before leaving the stage? Is there some last advice that you would like to give to the people that are listening to us today?
I want to get some advice myself. No, I think we should all see this as a marathon, not as a sprint. And especially to the HR professionals, I said that to my team yesterday, guys. We don't need to be strong all the time. We don't need to have all the answers all the time. We have to take turns. You have to know who you can count on so that you start the day, and because you have some situation in your family or with your friends, or because you are fed up with your boss for a topic that you can convince them to do what you think is right, or just because you couldn't sleep well at night because your son, whatever. Let's not be super hard with ourselves, and let's not put all the energy in one case, in one topic, because this unfortunately is not going to be over next week. So we need to take care of ourselves, exercise, take the call from the hallway while we can still walk outside, and take care of ourselves, because the company needs us, the family needs us, and this is not a short-term battle. So just don't be so hard on yourself. Admit that we can have our days, and try to take some time for you as well. That will be mine.
Super nice advice, super nice closing. Danny?
I think from my side is the same. I always remember the flight attendant in the flight that say, first, in case of emergency, first put the briefing yourself, then put the children, so on. So first we have to care about ourselves, to be healthy, to be in balance, and to share and to count on each other. I think it's something that's very important for me. It's worked very well. And also to ask ourselves what more we can do in order to support people that they don't have the same conditions that we have. And we as an HR, we can and we have to influence the decisions that we are taking now in our company, and to care about the business sustainability, but also care about our employees, because I have to say, people help generate profits. I truly believe in it. So my speech about values or purpose, it's not something that belongs to the fluff speech, but came from revenue. If you have people engaged to the company, if you have people, if you have been honest with our employee and give the perspective, but also realize the situation that you are living. It's not easy. You don't have answer for everything. We are together, and we will surfing in this wave, even though we can do it together.
No. I think it's a final, fine and nice closing. I think the message is, let's stick together. We can go through this crisis all together. And I think, Raquel, now and then, of course, reasonably, we just have a drink, relax, and I wish that.
Yes.
I wish that as well to all of you. Thank you very much for this nice contribution. As I said, have a Heineken, relax, enjoy the evening, and thank you for being with us today. And thank you also to the audience for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed the talk. And please let us know via the social media, via our website, and via the small survey that we will send out at the end of this debate, because the information, the feedback of the audience is obviously very important to us. And don't forget to post a nice picture of your cocktail moment with Heineken on our Instagram page, and like us, because this is what we like as well. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening, and see you girls very soon.
Thank you, Peggy. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Ciao. Bye.
Bye.